Fags, I guess first up, your reaction to the news that season is going to go ahead and restart from June 11?
Well, I think it's a positive announcement that the season's going to go ahead, and I think it's a sense of normality, at least one step towards normality that I think we all want as a community. It's great for the players. They're itching to get back together as a group to be able to train and ultimately to play again. It's obviously been a unique environment for them over the last couple of months, and I think it's great for the fans, and we know it's going to be presented differently, but at least they can cheer on their team and get behind them as we work through the next 144 games as an industry.
The big part for you guys next, I guess, when are you considering leaving for Queensland? Will it be a matter of days, or can you put a time frame on that? When are you going to be leaving?
Yeah, at the moment we're planning on departing on the 25th of May, or certainly being up on the Gold Coast by the 25th of May, so that we can engage in the contact training as outlined by the AFL with their schedule of return to play and in preparation for 11 June start.
Is there any consideration of leaving a little bit earlier to get up there and get a head start on things, or are you pretty happy with how that sits now?
No, I think next week will enable the group just to come together, and we haven't obviously been apart for a long period of time, and there's a fair bit of planning that needs to take place between now and then, and also I think we just need to recognise that the playing group's going to be away from families and others when they go up there, so we want to limit the amount of time that they're up there wherever we can.
But the players can't train in groups of more than 2 next week though? Is that still the case for the club under SA regulations?
No, actually that's not. Sorry, the scripts are 10 already. Sorry, yeah, no.
Oh, yes, it's AFL club,
yeah.
My bad.
Is there really any chance then of SA Health revisiting that rule on contact training for you guys, or is that's gone now?
Oh, look, I'm unsure, and if there's some flexibility in there, if they adjust that interpretation, well, it could impact the decision to leave on the 24th or 25th. But at the moment, we're looking to leave on that date. That's how we'll plan, and if there's any adjustments that are made, well, then we'll respond to them accordingly.
How many are you going to take the whole squad up there? How many football department people as well?
Yeah, at the moment, the AFL have indicated that we can take the whole squad up, and I think that's where our thinking sits at the moment, so we're just working through that as a group. In terms of staffing levels, there are going to be some restrictions in place. I think the indication at the moment is around 24 or 25 staff members can be a part of the hub, and in fact that's a number that's I think replicated across all 18 teams. So we're again working through that at the moment to finalise those numbers, and we'll do that in advance of the group returning to training on Monday.
You'll be staying with Port, my understanding is. Crosstown rivals kind of become neighbours. How does that kind of sit with all of you guys?
Well, we said this season's unique, and I think having both teams working together in a hub will add to that uniqueness. It certainly is different, but I've got to say it's all 18 clubs have been working in a really collegiate manner over the last couple of months to try and get the season back underway, and I've spoken to Keith Thomas often. I know the heads of footy have spoken a lot, and I think the coaches have probably touched base several times as well. So they'll get more opportunity to get to know each other up on the Gold Coast.
Logistically, I guess, how do you look at the fixturing? Do you want these to be considered home games? Do you want them to be away games? Like, how does that kind of sit with you guys at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we've spoken initially to the AFL about that, and look, they're going to take, I think, another week to 10 days to finalise the fixture. We do know that they'll release it in batches of 4 to 6 games at a time. For the groups or the teams on the Gold Coast, I think we'll look to play each other and not have any travel over that 4 or 5 week period, which is a positive. And look, with regards to home games or away games, I think they'll make that balance itself out over the course of the year. And look, the word that's been used is agile or flexible, because we know that how we start is unlikely how we're going to finish, and we've got to respond to the changing environments of the respective state governments and the health restrictions that that might be in place, and as well as hopefully the ability to maybe have games back here in Adelaide at some point in time.
Are you going to push for, I guess, an extended run of home games later on in the season, in the hope of maybe actually having some games back in Adelaide as kind of trade-off for having to start the season in a hub in the Gold Coast?
Yeah, look, I think those things are all on the table. It's difficult enough to get a fixture away in the first place and under normal sort of conditions, and obviously this is even more challenging I think it's why the AFL looking at doing it just in blocks of 4 to 6 each time to recognise that the environment will almost guarantee to change during the course of the season. So I said we hold out hope that we can get games back at Adelaide Oval, and but the fixture needs to plan for the possibility that won't occur as well. So we've just got to be flexible and agile, and we'll embrace that challenge.
Where does the showdown fit into that? Do you kind of resign yourself to having to play a showdown in Queensland as part of this hub arrangement? And I guess it is what it is.
It's a good question, and it's one I've already asked earlier today. I think there's a chance that will occur. Again, we've got to recognise that we're trying to get away as an industry 144 games, and we're doing that with a lack of certainty about what the future looks like, and I think that takes away some of that flexibility to schedule those games where you might like them, and so I think that they'll probably look to have those teams who are based in Queensland play each other over the course of 4 or 5 weeks. But I'd love to think that we could get that game at the back end, but we'll just have to see where the AFL land on it.
A slightly uncomfortable question, but have any players suggested or intimated they won't want to travel to Queensland or anything along those lines?
No, not at this stage. So look, the group's a really solutions-focused group. They've embraced this. I was on the phone to Rory Sloane only this afternoon. He said, look, we've got to make the most of this and be upbeat and positive about it. I think they're intending at the moment to probably travel just as a playing group and get used to the environment up there, but we know that families can come up as well, so I'm sure that will be considered after they've had some time to settle in, and it's good that the AFL and the Players Association, the club have worked together to provide for that. So, but yeah, as it stands at the moment, I think they're just looking to get there settled in and make those decisions after that.
What about Queensland's vaccination policy? Have any players raised concerns about that?
No, again, not at this stage. Again, I think they're pretty flexible, and with this, they know that this is a unique situation. They know they've just got to do what they've got to do to get back to training, and I don't think we've had any players put their hand up in opposition to that at the moment.
Have you got more information about what it's going to look like there, what they can do? For example, can they go out and play golf, even though there's kind of suggestions that they're on a golf resort and they can't actually go out and play golf? Bit of irony.
Yeah, well, they're there to get to work. They've got a season to prepare for, but we expect that the protocols from the AFL will come through hopefully over the course of the weekend. We had a hook up with the presidents and the CEOs this morning with Gil and his team. They're finalising those as we speak. Said they'll be communicated to us over the course of the next few days, and then we'll obviously adhere to them. So it's going to be a unique environment. We know that there are clearly restrictions in place, and they're there to protect the interests of not just the players and the coaches and the football staff, but the broader community, and that's got to be at the forefront. And if they provide sufficient flexibility for the guys to undertake some other activities up there, well then that's great. But if they don't, then we get about and we just do our work.
Can it galvanise the club, do you think, as a playing group?
Yeah, I think people can look to the challenges of obviously playing away, and there certainly are some, but there are some advantages as well. It's just being together as a group, and so I'm sure. I said, having spoken to Sloaney this afternoon and Matthew Nix and Adam Kelly, that's certainly the way they're looking at it. They're looking at taking advantage of the fact that of the whole group together for a good chunk of time, and I think it's we can take positives out of that.
And charter flight, is that how you kind of get everyone up there? I imagine it's a little bit tricky kind of getting right into the Gold Coast at the moment.
Yeah, it's certainly important to get up there on one plane. So we've got to have the health and safety of the broader community at the front of our minds. So the group will be travelling up on the one plane, and to ensure that we adhere to all of those protocols.
Does the club pay for that, or does the AFL? I know they're paying for the hubs, but does the club have to pay for this charter flight? Yeah, so look, it's important to recognise that all of the costs associated with the hub, including getting there and obviously staying there, are all taken care of by the AFL, and one, they recognise the unique situation that's in place for the 4 clubs who will be based there, and obviously also recognising the really challenging financial environment that exists for all clubs at the moment. So they're picking up those costs, and the club won't be disadvantaged in that regard. Do you reckon you're going to go up there, or do you think you can stay here and then maybe another person can kind of go up there and be part of that group of 25? It looks like.
Yeah, there's really strict. I think they're going to be pretty strict on the numbers. So look, I won't be there. We'll let the footy team get there and get stuck into their work and prepare to play. And but as we've been doing for the last 2 months, we'll be talking often, and we're all getting used to Zoom and Teams and all of the environments in which we're communicating. And I think that's been working reasonably effectively, and that'll continue to be the case, I expect, for the remainder of the season. I think Gil spoke about it today publicly. He's spoken about this amongst the teams over the last couple of weeks. There'll be a really strict separation between the football department doing their work and the other parts of the organisation. And Westlakes will be the same next week. It'll be locked down, and effectively the football department is completely quarantined from the rest of the facility and those working in it. And there'll be no face-to-face meetings, and there'll be no sort of interaction between those various sort of departments within the footy club. So it's a unique and different environment, but it's one that we're presented with, and it is what it is, and we've just got to embrace it and get on with it.
And just clarifying, is the Palm Meadows resort that you'll be? Is that
We're staying at the Mercure Resort on the Gold Coast.
Do you encourage families to go, or would you want them to have their training block and focus on that and then bring families up, or how do you approach that?
I think that's the approach that the playing group and the coaching group are looking at the moment, that they'll get up there around the 25th. They'll train as a group, and in doing so they'll get a bit of a feel for what it's like up there, and the amenities, the restrictions that are in place. And I think once they do that, they'll be able to have, I think, more informed conversations with their families about whether it's good for them to come up and the like. So we've just got to, again, I don't think that we can make every decision today on that. We've got to do things in phases, and I think the playing group's approaching it that way. I said, let's get to work, let's understand what it looks like up there, and then we'll look to bring families up at a later point in time.
Have you settled on a training date, like is where you actually will train?
I literally just got off the phone speaking to my head of football, Adam Kelly. He's investigating that right now together with the AFL, so they're obviously coordinating that amongst 4 clubs that are based there, and so look, all of those details will be worked through in the next week or so.
I'll imagine it be exclusive just for the Crows, or we have to, I guess, share it, maybe a training base with Port Adelaide or West Coast of Fremantle.
Yeah, again, they're all details to be worked through. It could well be there's a combination of both. I imagine training fields, etc., could be shared, but some of the other facilities may well be exclusive, just to limit the interaction between playing groups and obviously restrict any potential issues that could occur.